Chapter 16 of The Whipping Boy by Sid Fleischman. They have escaped, but now here come the bad guys again. We'll find out what happens in Chapter 16. Jimmy felt a surge of the creeps. Should he run for it? Instead, he began to burrow out of sight under the loose heap of potatoes. "Remember," he whispered to the prince, "it's me they're after, not you. Tell 'em we split up. Tell 'em I swam to the river." Prince Brat merely looked at him. The voices outside boomed. "Stand and deliver," I said. "And I heard you," said Captain Nips. "Deliver what? Potatoes? You scurvy rascals. Help yourselves." "Hang your potatoes," said Hold-your-nose Billy. "Deliver us some information and you can be off. We're after 2 runaway apprentices." "Apprentice highwaymen?" said the Captain Nips. "Our affair. Girl with the bear said she saw 'em streaking for the river. You carrying passengers?" Jimmy pulled the iron kettle over his head. The coach door was yanked open, and Jimmy could hear Cutwater's muffled cackle. "Got one. It's the whipping boy, it is. Where's your master, eh?" Jimmy held his breath. He had no reason to believe the prince wouldn't betray him again. There came a stiff pause. Then Prince Brat said, "Swam the river." By then Hold-your-nose Billy had ripped open the opposite coach door. Even through the kettle, Jimmy imagined he could smell the garlic. Swim the river? Faugh! He'd need scales and fins. Hardly a moment later, the kettle was grabbed off Jimmy's head, and he stood exposed. "Here's the potato we're after," Hold-your-nose Billy roared. Jimmy and the prince were yanked out of the coach, and the big outlaw shouted to Captain Nips, "Throw me down your whip and drive on." Hanging on to each boy by the scruff of the neck, the highwaymen scrambled out of sight below the embankment. Hold-your-nose Billy looked angry enough to throttle Jimmy on the spot. "Tricked me, did you? Flummoxed me with your fancy quill scratching?" "The game's up," Jimmy thought. He tumbled out the ransom note, ain't worth a scat. But trying to look as innocent as possible, he replied, "Sir?" "A gold sack or 2 would have satisfied me and Cutwater. Greedy ain't our middle name, but you, raising the ante to a great cartload, reckoned to slow us down, didn't you? Would be easier to drag around a dead horse. If we ain't light-footed, we're caught. That was your scheme." "What a pair of fools," Jimmy thought. "That hasn't been a scheme at all. You've got it all wrong," he declared. "I swear it. I enough blunder to burden us directly to the gallows, eh? Well, here's a whipping you won't ever forget." He snapped Captain Nips' whip in the air to get the feel of it. "Here's the whipping boy," Cutwater put in. "You said it'd go powerful worse if we thrashed the prince himself." Hold-your-nose Billy nodded sharply. Cutwater turned to the prince, holding him by the ankles in the air. "Go to it, Billy." Jimmy finally found his voice. "Lay down the whip," he commanded. "Don't have an ounce of sense between you." "Hold your gab, simpletons. You can just fill your pockets with plunder and be light-footed as ever," Jimmy declared. "Nobody flummoxes Hold-your-nose Billy and gets away with it." The whip snapped across the prince's back. Jimmy held his breath. He knew what it felt like. He saw that Prince Brat had set his jaws, just as Jimmy had always done, and not a sound escaped his lips. "Harder," Cutwater said. "You didn't raise a peep out of him." The big man let fly again. "Oh, he must have a hide like an elephant," said Cutwater. "He don't feel a thing." "He'll feel this," Hold-your-nose Billy thundered, and the leather whistled through the air. The prince's jacket was being shredded. "Bawl out!" Jimmy shouted. He dreamed of seeing the prince whipped, but now that it was happening, he found no satisfaction in it. "Holler and cry out. I won't tell anyone." Prince Brat only girded himself for the next blow. From the top of the embankment came an outraged voice. Betsy and her dancing bears stood there. "Ruffian!" she cried out. "What are you doing to that poor boy?" "No business of yours," said Cutwater. "Stop it." But Hold-your-nose Billy raised the whip again, and the next thing Jimmy knew, the girl had slipped the rope from the bear's neck. "Go get 'em, Petunia. Get 'em." Chapter 17. Petunia to the Rescue. The bear came snarling down the embankment. Raising on its hind legs, it bared its teeth and bellowed out a thunderclap of a roar. Cutwater dropped the prince and was off like a greyhound. Hold-your-nose Billy, his eyes round as snowballs, went charging off into the river. He made a great splash as if he didn't know how to swim. He learned instantly. Jemmy had reared back, but now Betsy gave a whistle, and the bear stopped in his tracks. "Good boy, Petunia, that'll do, darlin'," and she slipped the rope back around the bear's neck. Then she bent over the prince, those low-down bullies, laying stripes on a boy's back. With the bear sniffing him, Prince Brat didn't move a muscle. "Rein in your beast," he whispered. "Oh, don't be afraid of Petunia. Gentle as a kitten he is. Here, let me tend to your poor hide." "No." "Let me get a look." "Thank you, no," the prince exclaimed. "Lummy, ain't you the brave one? Must sting something dreadful." Jimmy watched the prince slowly raise himself off the mud flat. He felt a growing amazement. Prince Brat? Brave? It didn't seem possible. But gaw, there was a cast-iron streak of pluck in him. The prince moved his arms and shoulders. He winced, but he began to brush himself off. "Steady on your legs," Jimmy said. "Steady." "You should have yelled and bellowed. That's what they wanted to hear." "And humble myself?" muttered the prince. "You never did." Jimmy gazed at him for a thoughtful moment, and then he indicated the two highwaymen Cutwater had vanished, and Hold-your-nose Billy was trying to keep from drowning. "Let's be on our way. They're sure to be back after us." "Not if you travel with me," said Betsy. "Me and Petunia." Jimmy found the horsewhip where Hold-your-nose Billy had dropped it, and Betsy and the bear had already started up the embankment, and the boys followed. "Lawks," said Jimmy, "ain't we a puckered sight, the both of us, torn up and scruffy. At least no one'll take us for a prince." Not far off lay the coach on its side. "Hanged if I caught sight of that steep rise off the side of the road," said Captain Nips. "Tipped us over, as you see. "Either your horses need spectacles," said Betsy, "or you do." Together with Petunia, they lifted and pushed and righted the coach. They piled in and were off. Betsy and her dancing bear rode inside with the prince. Jemmy decided to sit with Captain Nips to watch for road hazards. They reached the city without further incident, except for being stopped by soldiers. The king's men were clearly looking for the vanished prince, and when a bear poked his head out the door window, the soldiers stepped back and quickly just waved the coach on. And I should be able to finish this up in the next adventure. See you later. Bye.